Alright, this is watercolor painting 101 Cassville art education. Just a few of the supplies here, and it doesn't necessarily need to use all these supplies, but I just kind of put a bunch of them out here just so we have an idea of what we can and can't use. First thing here is I have a couple of different palettes, paint palettes. This is just going to make it easy for us to mix the watercolors as far as taking the primary colors and then mixing the colors we need in order to do the watercolor painting. Okay. There is a selection of brushes. These are in the painting cabinet, and these are the ones that are in boxes, so we do have plenty of brushes. Some of the examples of the brushes, and I already have a selection of them out. And I'll typically leave some of these out anyway, and they'll be in one of the pencil bags for our use. And I have a couple of different styles. I have a white bristle watercolor brush, and the big difference between the two is one's a natural hair and one's a synthetic hair brush. And of course, then the other difference is they actually call the one handle on one brush. So these red brushes, they call it a long handle, and these black brushes, they call them a short handle. So otherwise, you know, I guess as far as painting, one may paint easier than the other just because of the bristle type. So again, the white bristles are a synthetic material, and then these dark brushes are a natural material. Okay, I technically prefer the dark bristles, but you know, I'd obviously suggest using either one. Okay, just to give it a try. So I've selected a couple of brushes. I have just kind of a medium size number 6, and again, they go by numbers, kind of like a drawing pencil. Right, so number 6 is going to be small, and then this is a number 12, which gets larger. And I want a selection of both. If you're doing real fine detail, you're going to want to go with like a number 1. And again, I have those selection of brushes, so it depends on what you're doing. Okay. And then I have a set of 8 watercolors, and you can have a set of larger watercolors than this. It's just 8 will pretty much do what we want because we're going to mix colors anyway. So we use the primary colors, which is our red, our blue, and then our yellow. Okay, so red, yellow, and then the blue. And that's going to mix pretty much every color we need. They do throw a few colors in between there, so the orange, there's like a purple, a green, and then they do a black and a brown in there. So again, there are a few other colors, but not overly necessary because we can mix the colors too. Alright, I'll leave this open here. I get a piece of paper towel, and again, we just get this out of the dispenser over by the sink. Selection of some cups, and these are just like some Dixie cups. And then I go and I got some water in these cups. Okay, because again, it's called watercoloring, so we have to have water. All right. And then what I did is I selected my subject, which was our still life in front of us. Okay, in this case, these trees. And I took a piece of newsprint and I sketched out kind of the figures of the trees, so that I have an idea of what kind of subject I want to paint. Okay, so again, I just sketched it out. It was a real rough sketch, just so I get the idea. All right, and then I acquired a piece of watercolor paper. Now you want to see your instructor for this. And this is a specialized paper that'll take on the water. It tends to not warp and twist with drying as much as your standard paper will, and or tear. Okay, so it's thicker. It just takes on the water a little nicer. And what I do is I take and I, again, rough in sketch, and I wouldn't sketch in 100% detail. All right, I just sketched it in, and I probably could have sketched just a little bit more than I did here, but for demonstration purposes, we're going to leave it the way it is. Okay? All right, I'm going to put my watercolors in front of me. I have my water, and I'm going to choose this mixing palette, so it's just a flat palette. Okay? And then my 2 brushes. And I'm going to start with a base color. So in this case, it's going to be like a light green I'm going to start with. All right, I'm going to use my big brush. I'm going to dip it in some water. And I'm going to use, you know, quite a bit of water here. And I'm going to select green. In this case, I have some black that's on top of it. So I guess it'll be a dark green in this demonstration. If you have a palette that's like this where it runs on, you know, it probably makes sense to maybe just chip the black color off Alright, and I'm going to get, you know, quite a bit of water here and some paint here on the palette. Okay. Alright, and then for a base layer, again, I'm going to use quite a bit of water. And I would just rough in kind of what the base of the tree is going to look like. Okay, so you see here how the tree has, obviously it's green and it looks like branches. So I'm just going to rough watercolor that in. Alright, just to give me a base color. And again, I do it over on this side. And then off of this, I'm going to start then putting detail in. So for detail, I'm going to go to my finer brush. In this case, I'm just putting in the base color with my big brush just to get it in. Alright. At the bottom here, now, the reason why I actually have a piece of paper towel here is I can clean my brush out, just wipe it out on that. And then it gets all that color that's in the actual water that I'm using, gets it out of the brush. Okay, that's why I have a couple of different water cups here with some water in it. Let's say I'm going to work on the presents here at the bottom, and I need a green, before I had the green, let's say I want to mix a green, alright? To mix a green, we use the blue and the yellow. So I'm going to put some blue down. You're going to see here I can mix colors. Alright, and then I'm going to clean my brush out. I'm going to put my yellow down. And we know that to mix a darker color, we start with the light and add the dark to it. So I'm just going to pick my blue up off my palette and add it to my yellow, and it's going to mix my green. Alright, let's say I want to come in here with this. There's a present towards the back that's green. I can watercolor that in. Now, the more watercolor you put on top of watercolor, the darker it's going to get, right? But you need to remember to let it dry. It dries fairly fast, so once it's dry, then we can add more watercolor on. Now, the more water you have in your paints, the lighter it's going to paint on the paper. Okay, so if I took my finer tip brush, add a little bit of water to it, not a lot, and take one of my colors, in this case let's say red, because I'm not going to mix, I'm just going to take the, alright, I can come in here and then I can paint detail on top. Now keep in mind it will bleed into the paper. Okay, it'll bleed into the paper. Here I have this sheet that's underneath that's red. Alright, making sure there's more paint in my brush and less water. Again, keep in mind though that if you have a lot of water, it's going to tend to bleed more. And you can already bleed the colors that you have down just by adding the water to it. Okay? So, mixing paints on a palette, adding water, making them lighter by more water, less water, going to be darker.